What's up guys, my name is Anakin and welcome to my very first ever video series. To start off, I'm a professional Tekken 7 player. I've been one now for the past few years.
Anthony slams on him to take the tournament. Anakin wins Red Bull Conquest Orlando.
But I actually got my start very young when I was like 10 years old, almost 20 years ago, back in the arcade, just button mashing my heart away. So the reason why I fell in love with Tekken was pretty much there was no beating the game. You know, every day there was something new to learn, new challenges, new obstacles to overcome. So if you're a gamer that's looking to push yourself to the limits, then Tekken is definitely a game for you. Over the past few years, Tekken has really skyrocketed in terms of popularity. It feels like every day a lot more people are taking an interest into the game, wanting to learn the ins and outs of it, but it can be very difficult. Tekken's known as a hard game to get into. The purpose of this video series throughout these next 6 weeks, I want to take you guys from day one beginner all the way into someone who's competent, you know, understanding of the game, ready to play, ready to join their offline community, hopefully one day ready to enter their very first tournament. I'm going to try to cover a lot of beginner content in a short period of time, so if anything gets confusing, feel free to pause and rewind to make sure it all makes sense. So with that said, good luck. So the first thing you got to learn, obviously, is what you're looking at in the game, which is the in-game interface. Obviously, you got the two characters trying to beat each other up. You've also got the life bars at the top, indicating how much life they've got remaining before they end up losing the round. Next to that is the round timer at the top center of your screen. It's going to indicate how much time is left in that round of Tekken. And in Tekken, you need 3 rounds to win the match. So the next thing you need to learn are the basic controls in Tekken, and for the purpose of this series, I'm going to use my PlayStation controller. If you want that more arcade realistic feel, you're more than welcome to go and get an arcade stick. You know, the controls are just going to be completely the same. So the general button layout goes a little something like this. You've got the left side of your controller, aka the D-pad. That's going to be used for movement, to control your character around the screen, around the map, the stage. And the right side of the controller are going to be your 4 attacking buttons. These are each going to correspond to the attacking character's limb. For example, the square button is going to control all your left punch attacks. The triangle button is going to control all your right punch attacks. Your kicks are going to be X, left kick, and circle, right kick. But for future reference, we're just going to call it 1, 2, 3, and 4. And sometimes, in order to perform certain attacks, you're going to be required to press maybe a combination of buttons at once, or maybe something on the D-pad and also a combination of buttons at the same time. The best place that you're going to be able to work on these things is in the game's practice mode. This is where you're going to be able to sit there and comfortably work on any skill that you desire without, you know, feeling the pressure of an incoming enemy attack. You know, a lot of players really spend a lot of time in practice mode just sharpening their skills. You know, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced player, there's always going to be something that you can work on in practice mode. So what separates Tekken from a lot of other fighters out there is how free characters are to move about the stage. You have your basic backward and forward movement, but you can also move into the background and the foreground to kind of reposition yourself on the stage, or maybe cause an enemy to miss an attack. But that's kind of more on the advanced side for later, but for now, I just wanted to introduce you guys to kind of the basic movements in Tekken. So all your character's attacks can be categorized into 3 main sections: high, mid, and low, each named after the area in which they land on the opponent. Each character has their fair share of highs, mids, and lows to kind of formulate some kind of a strategy to attack the player. Some attacks are faster, some attacks are slower, and this would be particularly important when both players perform an attack at or around the same time. The attack that lands first will connect as a counter hit on the opponent, and it'll deal a little bit more damage, and sometimes attacks receive bonus properties when they land as a counter hit, such as maybe launching the opponent into the air or knocking them to the ground. It's good to know whether an attack is high, mid, or low so that you can formulate strategies later on as you improve in Tekken. While we just covered the basic attacks in Tekken, offense is just half the game. And sometimes you're going to have to protect yourself in the game. You're going to have to learn to play a little defense. You're going to have to learn to block. Number one rule in Tekken, never forget it, is to hold back to block. Having basic defensive knowledge is very, very underrated among beginners because they're usually just trying so hard to focus on landing those attacks that they learn. Just getting used to the idea of holding back all the time when you're fighting against someone in Tekken can go a really, really long way. Guarding an enemy's attacks will usually give you the upper hand with counter attacks of your own, and sometimes you could even land a guaranteed punishment on players who are being too aggressive. In order to block low attacks, you're going to have to hold down and back on your controller at the same time. And while you're crouching, you're going to be also able to avoid high attacks, but the mid attacks will land on crouching opponents. So be careful, definitely be careful. Since most of the enemy's attacks are going to consist of high and mid attacks, you're probably better off just holding back, standing guard, defending against their attacks at first. And as you play with the opponent, get to learn and understand when they like to use low attacks, that's when you're going to be able to implement crouch guard into your gameplay. So one of the attacks that you're going to have to deal with and defend against in Tekken are throw attacks. And each character can perform a basic throw attack by pressing either the 1 and 3 buttons or the 2 and 4 buttons at the same time. So although throws are high, you can't actually block them standing up. You're either going to have to crouch under throws or press either of your punch buttons as soon as you get grabbed. One of the most devastating attacks that you'll face as a beginner are strings. And strings are multiple attacks that chain together as part of one large combination. For example, a mid attack into a low attack into a high attack, all back to back. So when you're defending, just try to pay attention to whether or not your opponent's using a lot of strings or whether or not they like to use like singular one attacks and stop. I wouldn't worry too much about strings right now, just block them as best as you can and keep an eye out for them. And we'll talk about more on how to appropriately deal with strings in a later episode. So last but not least, I want to talk to you guys about juggles, also known as combos. Now, certain attacks are going to cause the opponent to pop up into the air and go airborne and allow for guaranteed follow-up hits. And in order to land combos, timing and consistent execution are going to be key. A lot of new players struggle with how to consistently perform combos at first. Luckily, you can perform them at your own pace, on your own time in practice mode. And even better, recently they've added in-game recommended combos to kind of start beginners out on the right foot.
Don't be nervous by what you see on the screen. If you remember the earlier part of the video where I talk about buttons 1, 2, 3, and 4, then you already know what this all means. The first attack is just pressing down and 3+4 at the same time. This will launch the opponent into the air. The next attack in the combo can be performed by just simply pressing 4. And to finish the combo, you're going to be doing a 3-hit string. Down and back plus 2, 2, and then 3. This is the standard notation that you'll see in the menus as you try to learn a character. So just break it down piece by piece.
One of the keys to practicing combos for beginners that I usually recommend is if your combo requires you to perform 3, 4, 5, maybe more attacks in a sequence, is to break that combo down piece by piece and start learning them one at a time and only advance to the next section of your combo when you're actually ready to move on. So when starting off in Tekken, I think it's really important to find the right character for you. You know, somebody who you like the way they look, like the way they play. You know, just find somebody that suits you. Some characters are a little bit more advanced, while others do a better job at teaching beginners how to learn the game. So with that said, if you're a day one beginner player, I would definitely recommend Feng Wei, Paul Phoenix, Martial Law, Kazumi Mishima, Sergei Dragunov, and KATARIN ALVES as really good characters to kind of get started with. I know we just covered a lot, but like any good class, it's time to give you guys some homework. We'll be going over all the things that I covered in this lesson on an upcoming Twitch stream, so you guys definitely do want to tune into that. But in the meantime, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to tweet them at me, at TK Anakin. I'll be more than happy to help you out. So for now, just want you guys to jump into the game and try to have as much fun as possible. You know, Tekken is a game that is very challenging and can be frustrating at times, especially on your own. So just try to stay patient, be persistent, put the time in, put the practice in. You will get better, you will reap the benefits, and like I said, it's a big challenge, and this is kind of what you signed up for. You're a gamer looking for a challenge. It's been my pleasure to bring you guys this first week's lesson. I'm so stoked to see all you guys out there, you know, potentially becoming independent, strong Tekken players. So that's what I'm really, really excited for. So until episode 2, you guys take it easy, have fun. I'll see you later. Peace.